So joining me now to further break down this topic is Catalina Lauf, who's running for Congress in the 14th District of Illinois. So Catalina, we kind of heard the president kind of lay out this argument at his State of the Union address. It was really one of the big themes to me, actually, that I took away from it, is kind of laying out his economic policies and the ones that are being proposed by some of the more leftist lawmakers who are running against him. What is your take so far on this issue and what the president said on Tuesday night?
Well, for starters, the State of the Union was unbelievable. It talked about the incredible successes of an America First agenda. As somebody who is appointed by President Trump to his administration at the Department of Commerce, a lot of what he campaigned upon, whether it was Tax Cuts and Jobs Act or USMCA, directly affect Americans and American lives. These are kitchen table issues. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I have an example here in this 14th district of a manufacturing company that, because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, was able to implement an apprenticeship program to help the skills gap and labor shortages that are happening in the manufacturing industry. People and businesses, especially the small businesses, are able to grow and thrive when you deregulate and you cut taxes across the board. Things like USMCA. These are free market, free enterprise policies that are helping all Americans across the board. And that is what America was really founded upon. So when you have people like Bernie Sanders and AOC who are trying to create this very seductive paradise, well, it doesn't work because ultimately it's the taxpayers that pay for it all.
And, you know, the conversation has kind of ramped up over the past couple of years. I mean, of course, Republicans for a long time have always called a lot of progressive lawmakers, said that their policies would ruin the country, stuff like that. But I feel like now it's become a little bit more of an acceptable policy. So now it's starting to become taken a little bit more seriously than it has in the past. And I think a big part of that is among our generation, kind of among younger people. They seem to be the ones more willing to kind of support someone like Bernie Sanders or kind of give in to someone like AOC, who you say that you're a direct contradiction to, based on a lot of her policies. Why do you think it is that young people, for example, are kind of hopping on this bandwagon as far as socialistic policies? Or I may be wrong. Do you think that's not the case?
I think it's the way that they express it. They're very seductive individuals. I mean, this is the way that socialism, when you look at all these countries and the dictatorships that push socialism, it's the same way that Bernie Sanders and AOC talk. They try to manipulate the masses. And when you're looking at millennials who, at their core, our generation are very focused on social impact. They have great hearts. But we need to understand that having a good heart and empathy is very different than giving everything away for free, because ultimately somebody pays for it. We need to, as young people, talk about the values of capitalism, talk about what freedom it creates when you're empowering individuals, as opposed to the socialism philosophy that is so masked the way that they explain it. It's all about power. It's all about control. And millennials, I think a lot of them don't understand the detrimental effects of socialism. We look at countries like Venezuela and where my mother came from in Guatemala, and you look at how corrupt these governments are, and it's all about control. And we need to ensure that millennials are understanding history and they're learning history correctly so that they understand why America has the values that it has, and it's based upon freedom and a free market capitalist society.
And, you know, when you look at millennials, too, for example, some of the issues that are big to them, for example, would be the climate. And we've heard the AOC kind of come up with the Green New Deal, stuff like that, really reformative type of changes. And then student loans, for example, too. That's another thing that I would consider a socialistic policy, because a lot of those on the left want to kind of do away with student loans. They just kind of want to buy out and kind of reset. But that is something actually that a lot of young people are affected by. It's kind of an anchor for them when they come out of college. Do you think that the GOP, the Republican Party, needs to kind of develop a better response to some of these issues that are facing young people moving forward, that kind of focus more on free markets, as you were saying, or something like that, compared to these more reformative socialistic policies?
I think the biggest misconception when you're talking about the environment or even student loans is how we've gotten to where we have. So student loans, there's a long history there of why loans were given out to people. And also when it comes to the Green New Deal, there's not enough research to tell us that climate change is happening, man-made, global warming, all of that. And for AOC to be willing to bet an entire economy, a $93 trillion Green New Deal, well, somebody has to pay for that. And so I think the biggest way to combat that is by arguing with facts. The GOP needs to do a better job in messaging the real facts about what is happening and the real cost. When you don't break those things down, people just automatically go with the seductive words from AOC instead of looking at the entire picture.
Yeah, Catalina Lauf, all of our viewers, you can find out more about her at catalinaforcongress.com. Catalina, thank you very much for joining us.